Hey guys, Dr. Maya Reese here, coming to you from the still unfolding chaos of my office. I just posted a video about anxiety and depression and how, in my experience, the solutions we're often given by culture for anxiety and depression are BS. They are things you can buy, they're things that make other people rich, they're things that serve other people's agendas, and in my personal experience, they don't work. What's worked for me is trying to not fix me, but trying to fix the world with the full understanding that I'm never going to be able to fully do that. So for me, I found that I needed to stop asking, what do I need? And I needed to start asking, how am I needed? So I have some book recommendations today to read that are not self-help, that are actually books that will inspire you to go out into the world and to fix it. And hopefully by doing so, help you too. I thought I would do this from here because my newest attempt at fixing the world is actually asleep here on the couch. That is Clementine. Say hi, Clemmy Clem. That is Clementine, the newest foster dog here at in the library. And by the way, that over there, that big giant thing, that's the big wet spot where Clementine peed on the carpet. So so knowing that the things you're going to do to fix the world might cause you actually some stress in your life, might leave some stains on your carpet and a few fewer dollars in your bank account, but that the process of actually using your body and your hands to fix the world, to put your anxiety into action, actually gives you so much more back, far more than the cost of a carpet or the cost of whatever it is that you're probably going to have to replace in order to fulfill whatever your personal mission is. So hopefully maybe I can get Clementine to stop snoring through this video. Clemmy Clems, can you maybe just, okay, thank you. But let's start with book recommendations. Okay, so I have a few here. And again, these are not self-help because self-help is often BS. And some of it's good. Trust me, I've read a fair share of self-help that is not so bad. But honestly, most of it's, even when it's good, it's kind of dumb. Like, it's writing for the lowest common denominator. Like, sometimes I'm reading this, and it's not just because I'm a professor and I read big, complicated books, because I like a simple, straightforward book too. But sometimes I'm reading it and I'm like, I feel like I'm being talked down to. So these are books that are not self-help, but that will actually probably make you think and make you better. The first is one of my favorites. This is Matt Haig's book, Reasons to Stay Alive. And Matt Haig is someone who really struggled with a panic disorder, just like me, and had debilitating panic attacks, just like I did, and writes about the experience of that in this book. And just reading it and knowing that his experience was so much like my experience gave me so much solace. He talks about the panic about panic. He talks about how we are afraid of having panic attacks and how doing so, if you have a panic disorder, can actually trigger a panic attack, and the vicious cycle and the kind of Sisyphean experience that can be. So, and it's also occasionally funny because he's a very approachable writer and I really like his work. The second one is among one of my favorite books of all time, and it is Anne Lamott's Traveling Mercies. Anne Lamott, you might be familiar with, famously said that all prayer can basically be summed up as help me, help me, help me, or thank you, thank you, thank you, or wow. And I think it's really brilliant. This is certainly a Christian-oriented book. I am not a Christian, but I still found this to be incredibly useful. It's such a wonderful meditation on what it means to be a religious or faithful or spiritual person without the dogma, without the weaponization of religion, without all of the ways that religion makes the world less safe. This is a meditation on what it's like to have the divine, significance, transcendence, whatever it is, not forced down your throat, but rather to have it show up and wallop you on the head and say, get your shit together. And so I certainly have had that experience. I think that her depiction of it is probably far more beautiful and literary than mine, but I will tell you that I too have certainly said a prayer occasionally and said, help me, help me, help me, and received a very clear answer from somewhere. And that answer was, this isn't my job, help yourself. So, and I'm like, it felt like God, it felt like something. And it wasn't, oh, you're a poor baby, I will take care of you. It was, get your shit together, Maev, and pull your big girl panties on and go fix the world because your problems are pretty small. And hearing that and hearing it here is incredibly healing and valuable, especially when that's exactly what we need to hear. The other one I'm going to share with you is actually written by somebody I happen to know professionally, not personally. This is by Kate Bowler. She is an incredible person. She's an incredible scholar of religion, and she's an amazing communicator about really difficult things. This is No Cure for Being Human. Kate was diagnosed with a very advanced stage of colon cancer in her 30s with a young child and a relatively new marriage. And it's about navigating all of the ways that culture tried to fix that for her, right? By telling her to be a fighter and telling her to just look for the good and to see everything as a blessing. And she kind of, in a way that is kind and subtle, kind of calls BS on all of that. She does it in a much gentler way than I do, which is probably good, which is why she writes the books. And it's definitely worth your read. She has several others as well that speak to that experience and the lessons she's learned in that experience. She did survive that cancer diagnosis with an tremendous amount of support and, in her own words, a tremendous amount of luck. And it wasn't a matter of being a fighter, and it wasn't a matter of changing her mindset. It was a matter of modern medicine and luck. And she owns that, and it's really important that we remember that when we're talking to people who are going through shit, who are going through a hard time, that we don't try to take away their pain. It's one thing to try to help people, and it's another thing to take away their pain so that you don't have to deal with it. So when people say, oh, keep your chin up, think positive, a lot of times what you're doing is you're trying to take away their pain for your benefit, not for theirs. And she talks about the importance in this book of letting people sit with their humanness and how to support people in their humanness without glossing over or dismantling or denying the very real pain they might be in. This book is probably directly right in line with everything I've been saying, quite literally. This is Lost Connections by Johann Hari. And this is a book that was really eye-opening for me, really interesting for me. It was basically an attempt to see, he's a journalist, if our culture's solutions to anxiety and depression, the self-focused solutions, were actually part of the problem. And the diagnosis that he really comes up with is that real depression and anxiety certainly exist. They certainly can require individual solutions like medication, individual therapy, but that a lot of us are also feeling the effects of a connectionless society, a society without community, a society without meaningful values, a society who defines values by what you're against and trying to demonize, gay people or trans people or, whoever you want. That's not values, right? That's not family values. That's not personal values. And that's certainly not meaningful connection. So he talks a lot about how building community, how building a life that is around putting your values into action by take it in the foster dog who pees on your carpet, or, whatever it is that you feel called to do, that how that can really help with depression and anxiety, in addition to the other maybe more personal interventions that might be necessary. So I feel like I could have been a case study in this book. It's a really well-written book. I mean, he's a journalist, he knows how to write well, but it's also well-researched. This one's a classic. I think that you've probably heard of it. I gave you sort of two vaguely Christian-oriented books, Kate's book and Anne Lamott's Traveling Mercies. And this one is a more Jewish-focused one, but it's certainly applicable to people of every religion or no religion at all. And this is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl, as you probably know, was a Holocaust survivor. He was in a concentration camp, and he was watching the people in the camp and watching the way that they were responding to these profound actions and systems of dehumanization. And what he found was that the people who coped in a way that helped them, which of course doesn't mean they survived, because, you know, the Nazis killed people indiscriminately. But the people who were able to hold on to their sanity in a completely insane environment were the people who were trying to help the other people around them. And when the people who were around them were doing better, they did better. And the people who really held on to a reason to stay alive and a reason that was outside of their own suffering, those were the people that Viktor Frankl identified as being people who could at least hold on to their sanity, even if they tragically lost their lives due to circumstances that, of course, their mental state could not control. But it's a wonderful book. I know it's about a concentration camp, so, like, you know, maybe don't read it if you're super triggered by things like that. There were certainly moments in my life when I couldn't read this book, but it's worth your time and certainly worth your reading attention if you can handle a little bit of that, because the message is so powerful and so worth the pain that it costs to get there. Last one, I think, is among my favorite philosophers and the probably most underrated philosopher of the 20th century. I'm gonna go out on the limb and say that. And that is The Need for Roots by Simone Weil. I know it looks like wheel, but it's pronounced Weil. Simone Weil, also from a Christian perspective, but born a Jew, interestingly enough. She's sort of a mystic more than anything else. Again, it's not... if you're really kind of scared by like a Christian perspective because you grew up in a really repressive Christian environment, it's not that. Okay, you don't need to be scared of this. This book is all about how people need community and need other people and need to be grounded in certain ideas and values. And this woman was not some armchair philosopher. She did not just, like, you know, sit somewhere and write this book and talk about how it's all really important. This is a woman who, when she was like 20 something, was watching the Spanish Civil War unfold, right? Watching fascism take over Spain. And she wasn't even Spanish, okay? She's French. And she was like, oh, I'm going to put my values into action. And she just like went to Spain and fought in the war. Like, fought in a war that she had no vested interest in because fascism needed to be fought, and she wasn't going to wait for other people to do it if she could contribute. I mean, and she almost died, you know, several times. And so she really put her body on the line, put her life on the line for the values that she thought were essential for human flourishing. I'm not suggesting we all go throw ourselves into war zones. I don't think that's the best idea all the time. But I wanted to point it out that this is not a meditation from the ivory tower or a place of privilege. This is a woman who has starved. This is a woman who has been shot at, who has lived under occupation. And it is an exceptional book on how communities are required and how they need to be built. The last book recommendation, I can't find the book. because I'm living in a bit of a reorganization process, but I'll find a picture and I'll put it here or something. And that is Dorothy Day's The Long Loneliness. Dorothy Day, you may or may not have heard of. She is an American Catholic woman at the beginning of the 20th century who dedicated her life to helping the poor, and who set up these amazing shelters that fed people and clothed people and got people jobs and got them back on their feet long before there was any social safety net to do that, and long before anybody really was doing that in a meaningful way. Dorothy Day was putting her own self in those situations. And she didn't just set up those shelters and then go back to her own comfy apartment. She lived with those homeless people in those shelters. Even with a young child, she brought her child into those environments, which, I don't know, I'm not a mom, but like, I don't know if that's the best idea, but she did. And it's about her conversion to Catholicism, her finding faith, but it's also about how that faith became action and how those values sort of hit the pavement and started to feed bellies. Because this was the point of my larger video from before, is that our values are useless if they stay in our head. Your personal spirituality is fine, but it doesn't do anything if it stays in your head, right? I don't care how connected you are to the universe. If you're not helping someone, if you're not feeding someone, if you're not contributing in some way to the easing of suffering in the world, then it doesn't really matter how high-minded you are. It doesn't really matter how connected you feel to your best self, right? Or to the universe, or to the laws of manifestation, or whatever hooty-doo that the world is trying to sell you. What I think matters is values in action. Whether it's faith values in action, whether it's secular values in action, whether it's just your own anxiety being put into action in order to give it something to do, I feel like there is real power in that, and that's exactly what we need in order to fix this broken world, to repair the world, or in Judaism, what we call tikkun olam, to repair the world. But certainly that's not a value that's exclusive to Judaism, as we've noted from the various Christian perspectives we've covered today. So that's all I got. Clementine, you want to say bye? No, she's sick of you. She wants you to leave. Sorry. All right. Have a good one, guys.